That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Skincare, the directorial debut of Austin Peters, which IFC Films is releasing August 16th, 2024.
Directorial debut.
Yeah, he's worked quite a bit in music videos for Orville Peck, Bastille, and Diplo. His cinematographer, Christopher Ripley, also kind of comes from the music video world, having directed music video, lensed music videos for Kendrick and Bad Bunny. Also was the cinematographer on Little Death, a Sundance film this year starring David Schwimmer.
What is Skincare about? Famed esthetician Hope Goldman's skincare business faces sabotage when rival Angel Vergara opens a boutique across the street. Aided by friend Jordan, Hope seeks to uncover who's trying to ruin her reputation.
Was it Goldman or Coleman?
Ugh. What's your pull quote?
The seeds of a sleazy comic neo-noir are unfortunately suffocated by a messy narrative in a script begging for some exfoliation and contouring in this overbaked yet undercooked skincare.
Mine. Unfortunately, skincare is nowhere near as thrilling or as unhinged as you'd want it to be.
Which is unfortunate, because I happened to see the trailer and was immediately interested in the visuals, Elizabeth Banks, and the Grimes track. That is not evident in the film soundtrack, actually. A different Grimes song is.
So we're told this is a fictional story inspired by true events. So Elizabeth Banks plays Hope Goldman. Los Angeles 2013, we're told she's a famous esthetician working in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Location is
the Crossroads, which you've seen in many films set in LA, that area.
She has a little boutique where she sees clients, and she has an assistant played by Michaela Rodriguez. And we're told she's on the verge of launching her own skincare line. Literally, like in a couple of weeks, it's going to launch. But on the verge of this, someone hacks her email and sends correspondence to like all 5,000 of her contacts, saying that she's desperate for money, she's in need of sex, and they've attached like suggestive photos that have been photoshopped with her face on them. So of course, she's freaking out, upset. Clients are starting to cancel. The opening of the film is her, at the beginning of the film, she films a segment for like a popular daytime talk show to announce the launch of her product. But as a result of this scandal with the email, that segment is bumped. So she's very concerned because we're also told that like she's having a hard time paying the rent on her boutique. She has all this product she needs to sell, and she's trying to figure out who's responsible. So we see that another esthetician has moved in the building in front of her, Angel.
Played by Luis Gerardo Méndez, who worked for Ms. Banks on her Charlie's Angels film.
And we reviewed a film he was in.
Half Brothers.
Yeah. So, of course, we think, well, maybe he is responsible for this hacking. But around the same time, a young man enters her life, played by Louis Pullman.
Jordan, who sachets his way into her salon with her rich clients, played by Wendy Malick.
Right. And he is supposed to be a life coach / karate instructor. And initially he seems very charming, and he is supportive to Elizabeth Banks' character, saying he can do whatever she needs him to do. So, of course, for an hour of the film, we're trying to figure out, well, who's responsible. Obviously, she's pointing the finger at her newfound nemesis, Angel. So she asks Jordan for help. Mm-hmm. And he goes over to talk to Angel. But when he goes over there, he's trying to sell him like, I'm a life coach, can I partner with you? So obviously something's not right because he's not confronting him to say, stop harassing my friend. But we find out through a police detective after Elizabeth Banks, like her tires have been slashed. Someone's been posting Craigslist ads back when like the personal section was active.
Sexually explicit ads.
Basically saying she's looking for
sex while she's at work.
Pretty graphic like scenarios where it's like she wants to be surprised and assaulted. So all these creepy people are showing up. So the police have interacted with her, but in the third act of the film, one of the detectives says, "I need to show you something," and he shows her surveillance footage of the person responsible for slashing her tires, and it's Lewis Pullman. Mm-hmm. And then everything escalates from there because we realize that he's also we see that he's posting the Craigslist ads. But there's another gentleman named Armin,
played by Eric Palladino from ER and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
who is a businessman who owns like an auto body shop, and he really likes Elizabeth Banks. He's storing a lot of her products at his shop. We see that he like fixes her car for free basically, and he likes her. So when she's telling him of her problems, he says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." And what that amounts to is this dumb man goes to Angel's house to scare him, but ends up like beating him up so bad he's in critical condition. But as Armin is escaping the scene, he gets into a fatal car accident.
And dies, yep.
And fatal dies.
Well, you know.
So he, the end is that the police arrest Elizabeth Banks because they think that it's like a murder for hire situation. So of course it becomes big news that this like Hollywood esthetician is accused of murder for hire. So all of a sudden her business is booming. Mm-hmm. The end. We do see Jordan get arrested, but we never learn why he did this.
Yes, and you know, the counterpart that could actually finger Elizabeth Banks for, you know, asking him to do something to Angel would mean that everything about how she's implicated means it's her word against everybody else's. So I would think that she wouldn't even be convicted. Anyway,
it doesn't matter because we don't even know what happens. The way the ending plays out is that her business is booming, her products are number one wherever or whatever that means. And then we see her assistant, Michaela, who's also in charge of her PR, talking to someone on the phone saying that she's booked months out. So I assume that was supposed to be taken as either she's not available because she's incarcerated and waiting for trial, or she really is legitimately booked, which also seems odd to me, which we can get to. But do you want to talk about what you liked about the film?
I like Elizabeth Banks, and it's fun seeing her in a lead role in something like this, but I don't think that there's just something that's kind of tonally off about it. And I appreciate the fact that we come to really disdain her, but what that, as a character, Hope Goldman, but what that does also, it's an anxiety-inducing film watching someone have to go through this scenario, but at a point, like after the hour mark, when it's revealed that it's Lewis Pullman, as if we couldn't have figured that out anyway, there's really no I just don't care anymore about her or these people.
Well, that's what you liked. So is that it?
That's it.
I liked the actor playing Angel. I thought he fit the role well. Because at first he comes across kind of bitchy, but then as things evolve, we realize that man was not bothering Elizabeth Banks. He was minding his own business, trying to start his own business across the way. He wasn't even checking for her. In fact, he has to tell Elizabeth Banks, you know, you're parking in like my parking spots. That's about all he does to her that would inflame her.
And when her tires are slashed, she's still in one of his parking spots. So
I like seeing Michaela Rodriguez. She has nothing to do.
She does not. Actually, and Lewis Pullman, I think all of these are interesting character elements. I liked Armin as well. I thought he was a nice screen presence, and we talked afterwards thinking that, God, like he gives her free tires, and he's actually very appropriate and friendly, and he's like, you can't even say you'll buy him a drink.
I think the casting is weird for mainly Elizabeth Banks, which I'll get to, but also Armin, because he's a very handsome man. I almost feel like they should have cast someone who would have been, how do I say this nicely? Like, he could pull an Elizabeth Banks. So the fact that he's doing all this while she's kind of like playing him seems kind of unreal. He's also like a successful man.
Is she? So what I think the film sets up that's interesting is that she becomes vulnerable when she's in need. As a pretty woman, I think the best scene that works as it's intended is with Nathan Fillion. After her segment is pulled from the air, she goes out for drinks with him, trying to assuage him, convince him, please still air my segment. He drives her home and then tries to get her to fillet him, and she pretends to record it on her phone. And to me, that was the comedy, the dark comedy of that scene, I think works the best.
Based on the trailer, I was expecting something a lot more thrilling and like psychosexual, unhinged.
Like the neo-noir version of Barbara Stanwyck in My Reputation.
But really, the first hour is just Elizabeth Banks sort of stomping around, making kind of silly choices and not communicating well. I think her casting didn't work for me because I actually am very familiar with that scene in that area at that time because I also worked in salons and worked with estheticians. She just does not read as an esthetician to me. She reads as the woman who owns the spa. And I think it would have made more sense for her to own a spa with employees who might be jealous of her and want to take her down, because as it is, there aren't many options for the audience to choose from as to who's responsible. So Angel, the new guy across the street, is the obvious choice, which means that he's probably not the one. Then you have her assistant, Michaela, but Michaela is presented as like not being in the skincare industry, like she's not an esthetician. So then her entire livelihood, which she says is based on Elizabeth Banks' success. So it wouldn't make sense for her to do it. Armin, I thought, well, maybe he's mad because he's doing all this stuff for this lady who doesn't want to offer him anything in return, but that didn't feel right. Then Nathan Fillion, I do agree that it's a good scene when she sort of like baits him to record him so she can blackmail him to force him to air her segment. But then she doesn't do that until after she's being harassed. So we know that that's not him. So then you're left with Jordan. And I do think Louis Pullman's the most interesting character in the film because he's addicted to cocaine, it would seem. He has a kind of a really fun scene where we see him in his little undies. It was giving me like Buffalo Bill dancing in the mirror, kind of, because he's all hyped up and he's trying to record like life coaching videos at the same time.
He was giving me like early 80s Eric Roberts, coke fiend vibe.
Sure, and he's really like lean and veiny. So, I mean, he just looks intense. So then it's like, well, it has to be him because he's this mystery guy who shows up out of nowhere. And then when you find out it is him, then it's like, okay, well then are we at least going to understand why?
The motive is very muddled.
It's not even muddled. What is the motive? You came up with an idea that I think is the most reasonable, but the film's not pointing us in that direction.
Well, just to me, that he would create a problem to, like, kind of like a Nightcrawler scenario, create a problem to then fix it and then take the credit for it. But
as a life coach.
As a life coach, but you're doing it to this woman before she really takes off into the stratosphere, so therefore hobbling your own chances of being a parasite.
So it just doesn't.
For 3 screenwriters, one of whom was the director, I think it really should have been fashioned, executed a lot more intelligently than it is, because as you said afterwards. It feels too small. It's just Elizabeth Banks who's about to, again, take off with her one employee. She looks like the face of her line. She wouldn't still be doing services because, as you said, the way Elizabeth Banks is styled, like we see her with a couple clients and her, somebody's hair hanging down on them, also wearing a lot of makeup. And as you brought up,
she doesn't look like an esthetician. She's wearing all of the makeup. It looks very cakey. She is on my worst hair list. Those extensions are a literal nightmare. And then we see her doing facials more than like 3 times with those awful extensions hanging in front of her. You've never seen an esthetician with her hair down like that doing a service. It just, I agree with you. She should have been the face of Hope and Faith Skincare, whatever it's called.
I think her casting still works. It's just that the way that it is, it just feels so small and not very well researched.
I would agree. Okay, other things there are interesting moments like Angel, her rival, in her head, We see him come home from a busy day at work and she follows him, which first was annoying to me because she's trying to like be discreet, but she drives a very noticeable car. It's 2013 and she drives like a 87 SL Coupe. So like a very recognizable car. And we know for a fact Angel knows what she drives because she already clocked her ass saying stop parking in my parking spot. So she pulls up right in front of his house spying on him, and we see that when he comes home, he immediately turns on his karaoke machine.
At full blast.
Makes like a cocktail in his shaker, has like disco lights going, and he's singing a song. And I thought, oh, something real freaky is gonna happen. Like we're gonna see that he has some like sex thing waiting for him or something interesting. But there was nothing. He's just in there singing.
Just another person that's annoying to his neighbors in Los Angeles. That's all.
And we get him doing karaoke twice, which I also thought, I bet his neighbors hate him.
Yep.
Okay, there is a random guy following her around because we see that she likes to go to, again, the film feels small because we just see her in the plaza where her boutique is. We see her go to a coffee shop like 3 times.
One of which has cigarettes.
Yeah, they sell cigarettes. And then we see her go to the apartment complex Louis Pullman lives in. But while she's at the coffee shop once, and this is after the Craigslist ads and someone, which we'll get to, comes to her shop, we see another man following her. And it just felt so random, like to as the audience, like, oh, clearly you want us to notice this man. And we see him following her on like 3 different occasions. The second time when she's trying to buy a gun. And then we see this same man show up at her house and break in. And she's able to scare him away by spraying him with mace. But ultimately we find out that man was hired by Nathan Fillion to delete the recording of him asking for sex on her phone. So I feel like that was a red herring that was kind of a letdown.
It's just unclear about... I just wish they would have played into... Because Hope becomes very unlikable. How unaware she is of the stupidity of her actions.
Yes. Well, so related to that, I didn't like that. I was disappointed that I didn't like Hope. She felt like every lady whose hair I did at that time, who just was like self-absorbed and made everything a big deal and thought that anyone cared. Every interaction she has, it's like of the utmost importance that whatever she's dealing with. Like when she calls 911 over some flat tires. And then there's a person who probably works in a restaurant dumping the trash, and she's yelling at them like they should know what happened. I don't understand why they made her character like
And then she demeans him by saying no habla inglés.
Right.
Like it's like, okay, well, you're descending in your stress and anxiety into full Karen mode, which again, that is very believable human behavior, especially here from a variety of people. But I guess I just wanted more of a character arc where either she realizes that or in unfurling in full darkness where she really gets to benefit from the experience, which we don't even really see that.
I almost expected, which I think would have probably been better at this point, is I was expecting her to maybe have staged all of this on her own to get attention. Like, since her interview got bumped right before the launch, she got desperate and wanted to get her name on the news. And so if she fakes this thing, then that might bring attention to her. Like, I was fully expecting that to be the thing.
Oh yeah, well, or a minor hacking incident makes she receives actual sympathy and assistance, and then she realizes, like, I need to lean into that. As I said, Nightcrawler, ace in the hole. Like, again, since I'm assuming we're taking a lot of liberties with whatever kernel of truth this was based on. Like, why not just go full blast Los Angeles Hollywood satire?
Yeah, well, I mean, that would have required a lot better writing, I think.
Yeah, it's just this, but I mean, Elizabeth Banks' extensions are so, like, every scene you're calling out, like, her extensions.
Her extensions are so bad that I don't even know why they filmed her from behind.
Which made me think that it made me so confused about what was really intentional and what was not.
It almost would have made sense if they would have cast a woman or done prosthetics on Elizabeth Banks where she looks like Catherine O'Hara in For Your Consideration. When she gets that work done, I almost feel like Elizabeth Banks should have been one of those Beverly Hills, like, plastic surgery addicted women who owns a spa. and she's trying to get the skincare line off the ground. Almost like the aesthetics version of Maxine.
Yeah.
Where she's willing, but although Maxine was a bit of a letdown too, because I was expecting Maxine to do whatever it takes to become a star. And ultimately that's not what it is. But another plot point that I thought was confusing is Lewis hires these two guys who look like when Post Malone turns 50, he's gonna look like these people.
Or who are the men that busted the kneecap on Nancy Kerrigan?
Like that, kind of. But I didn't quite understand like why he's so he's paying these men in cash to harass Elizabeth Banks for why? Why? What? And then these two guys, he's talking to them at first like they all went to prison together. But then you get the sense, I understood that they weren't in prison together. They were in acting school together. But then why do they look like that?
They looked raggedy. But
they have tattoos all over their face.
They come to get money from Louis Pullman, and he's like, well, I could pay you in life coach lessons. It's like, no, we'll take the cash.
I just don't understand.
So her segment finally gets aired after the scandal because, of course, the TV network wants to capitalize on that. And they show her little speech where she's looking directly into the camera saying, like, you do whatever it is. I'm paraphrasing, right? That she says something along the lines of, you do whatever you need to do to make it happen for you. And I don't get that she did that.
No.
That Hope Goldman did that.
No, she didn't. When things got rough, when she got hacked, she kind of shut down.
Yeah, I wanted her to be like Nicole Kidman in To Die For towards the end. Like
cunning, venomous,
just the monster is unleashed.
Yes. She was not fun at all.
No, and then again, the communications drive me crazy because Michaela Jaé Rodriguez she really has nothing to do except provide a catalyst for how Pullman was able to hack their email system because of a hookup. And she has a little line about how, she's devoted to Hope Goldman because she believes in her and believes in her product and the woman she's going to become. So it's like, if you are that close to her, why isn't she communicating with you at all? Like they really had no chemistry.
At all. Yeah. My last note is I found it really annoying. Hope's character keeps trying to give everyone her products as like
compensation.
And I feel like even that gag could have been funnier.
It was made in Italy.
But it just felt so flat that by the very end, I just was kind of annoyed by her offering people her moisturizer.
But because Armin, she gives him some, and he's like, we have a bunch of this.
I have cases of it in mine. And she goes, oh, well, this one's special for you.
This one's just for you.
It's like, okay. Yeah, the last thing is the film ends the way it opens. So the opening scene actually is we see Elizabeth Banks as Hope putting on makeup, and it appears that like her eyeliner and mascara were running, like she was crying, and she's getting all dolled up. And then we cut to her filming the interview. So initially I thought, oh, that was just her getting ready for the interview. But at the end of the film, we see that no, that opening scene was her getting ready for the police to come pick her ass up. So then that's what happens. We see the police come and drag her out of her house.
And it is so overboard. There's a helicopter. It looks like you'd expect a SWAT team to pop out there and get her. It's like, well...
No one was looking for this killer until... And really no one died at her hands.
No.
Armin died from a car accident, and Angel is badly injured, but he's not dead. They showed up like she was the Night Stalker. I'm sorry, I didn't like this film very much.
I think I had higher expectations because of a well-cut trailer, in my opinion, but I was also a little disappointed.
What would you give Skincare?
2.5.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's okay, but I was disappointed. I would give it 2.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.